You know, it seems like everywhere you look these days, there's conflict.
Yeah.
And it's not just like disagreement, you know? It's like everyone's yelling their opinions, but no one's actually listening.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It feels like we've lost the ability to disagree respectfully.
Right. Like, how do we even have a conversation when everyone's just digging in their heels?
What makes you wonder if we've forgotten how to actually talk to each other?
And it got me thinking about Gandhi.
Yo, interesting.
Talk about someone who knew a thing or two about navigating conflict.
Definitely.
So today we're diving into an article called What Americans Can Learn from Mahatma Gandhi.
I like it.
To see what, what wisdom his philosophy can offer us.
His ideas were so powerful.
Yeah.
And they really do feel relevant even today.
Absolutely.
Right.
So let's jump right in.
Okay.
This article starts by talking about the power of nonviolence.
Right, which was central to Gandhi's philosophy.
It's easy to hear nonviolence and think, okay, passive resistance or turning the other cheek. But Gandhi saw it as something much more powerful.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't about being passive or submissive at all.
Right.
It was about actively resisting injustice, but refusing to meet violence with violence.
He actually called nonviolence a weapon of the strong.
Right. Because it takes tremendous courage and moral conviction to stand up for what's right without resorting to violence.
Yeah, it's like choosing love over hate, even when you've been wronged.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing the humanity in everyone.
Even your opponents.
Even those who are causing harm.
Which I think is one of the most challenging aspects of his philosophy.
Oh, for sure. It's so much easier to demonize the other side.
Right, to see them as the enemy.
But Gandhi believed that violence only perpetuates the cycle of hatred and suffering.
It makes me think about that quote of his.
Oh, which one?
Nonviolence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being.
Wow, powerful.
It's like it's not just a tact, it's a way of life.
A way of being in the world.
And it makes me think about the civil rights movement in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
And how Martin Luther King Jr. drew inspiration from Gandhi's philosophy.
Absolutely.
You know, to lead a movement that really transformed American society.
It's incredible how Gandhi's ideas, born from India's struggle for independence, had such a profound impact on the U.S. civil rights movement.
Right. And it shows you how these principles of nonviolence can be applied in different contexts.
And across cultures.
Even in the face of really deep-seated injustice and oppression.
And it wasn't just about grand gestures or protests.
Right.
It was also about everyday acts of resistance.
Like what?
Like refusing to cooperate with unjust laws.
Oh, okay.
Or speaking out against discrimination.
So it's about personal transformation as much as it is about societal change.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a nonviolent mindset in all aspects of our lives.
So how do we actually do that? I mean, most of us aren't leading mass movements.
Right.
How do we apply nonviolence in our daily lives?
Well, I think it starts with becoming more aware of the ways in which we perpetuate violence.
Okay.
In our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
Give me an example.
Sure. Like gossiping about someone behind their back.
Okay.
That's a form of violence.
Interesting.
Or yelling at someone when you're angry.
Yeah.
Even harboring resentment or bitterness towards someone who has wronged you.
So it's about choosing kindness over cruelty.
Exactly. And it's about seeking understanding rather than domination.
It's like even in a heated argument, pausing before you lash out.
Choosing your words carefully, even when you're feeling angry or frustrated.
It's about recognizing that everyone is struggling in their own way.
And that we all deserve compassion.
Even when we mess up.
Even when we make mistakes.
So we've got nonviolence as this like powerful force for personal and societal transformation. Now let's dive into Satyagraha.
Oh, yeah.
Which is truth force.
Right.
And this feels especially relevant in today's world.
Oh, absolutely.
Where misinformation and disinformation are everywhere.
It's hard to even know what to believe anymore.
Seriously. Like it feels like we're constantly bombarded with conflicting narratives.
And everyone claims they have the truth.
So how do we navigate this landscape?
Well, Gandhi believed that truth is not something that is imposed from the outside. It's something that is discovered from within.
Okay.
Satyagraha is about relentlessly pursuing truth, even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even when it challenges our preconceived notions.
So it's about being willing to question everything.
Including our own biases.
Right, because we all have them.
We all have our own filters through which we see the world.
And it's so easy to get trapped in our own echo chambers.
Oh, totally. Especially online.
Right, like where we're only exposed to information that confirms our existing beliefs.
Which is why it's so important to actively seek out diverse perspectives.
And to have those tough conversations with people who see things differently.
Exactly. And to be open to changing our minds.
Which, let's be honest, can be really challenging.
It is.
Right.
But it's essential for growth.
And for finding truth.
Gandhi said truth never damages a cause that is just.
That's a good one.
So if we're truly committed to justice,
Yeah.
we should be fearless in our pursuit of truth.
But how do we know when we found it?
Well, Gandhi believed that truth is not static.
Okay.
It's not something that we arrive at once and for all.
It's a process.
It's a journey.
And it requires humility.
Definitely. Gandhi himself said, "I claim to be a simple individual liable to err like any other fellow mortal I own, however, that I have humility enough to confess my errors and to retrace my steps."
Wow. So it's about being open to being wrong.
Absolutely. And being willing to learn from our mistakes.
So we've talked about nonviolence as a way of being and satyagraha as this active pursuit of truth.
Right.
How did these concepts work together in practice?
Well, Gandhi believed that satyagraha, the force of truth,
Yeah.
could only be wielded effectively through the practice of nonviolence.
Interesting.
He saw them as intertwined, inseparable forces for positive change.
So you can't force someone to see your truth.
Exactly. You have to create space for dialogue,
For understanding.
for empathy.
Which is where nonviolence comes in.
It creates that atmosphere of trust and respect where truth can emerge.
This is making me rethink how I approach conflict
Oh, yeah.
in my own life.
In what way?
I'm realizing how often I resort to defensiveness or argumentation when I feel like my truth is being challenged.
It's a natural human response.
Right. But Gandhi's philosophy challenges us to respond differently.
To choose a path of nonviolence and truth-seeking, even when it's difficult.
Which brings up another question.
Okay.
How do we actually live these principles
Yeah.
in a world that often feels so far removed from Gandhi's ideals?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's something we'll delve into deeper in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so we've been talking about nonviolence and truth force, like, in theory.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to talk about it, you know? It's another thing entirely to actually put those principles into practice.
Totally. It's like, how do we actually live this stuff?
Right. In our everyday lives.
Especially in a world that often feels so,
Yeah.
far removed from Gandhi's ideals.
Exactly. Like, I'm thinking about how easy it is to get caught up in the hustle and bustle, to prioritize our own needs and desires.
Yeah. Yeah.
Above all else.
The me mentality.
Right. So how do we reconcile Gandhi's teachings with, like, the realities of modern life?
Well, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Gandhi himself, recognized that it's tough to live a principled life in a world that's so often driven by self-interest and materialism.
Okay. But he must have had some ideas about how to do it.
He did. He believed that true transformation begins with individual choices,
Okay.
with each of us taking responsibility for aligning our actions with our values.
So it's not about waiting for, like, some big societal shift.
Yeah.
Or for other people to change first.
Exactly. It's about starting with ourselves right here, right now.
But that can feel really daunting.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Like, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all the problems in the world.
Totally. And to feel like our individual actions don't really matter.
It's like, what difference can I possibly make?
Right. But Gandhi believed that even the smallest acts of kindness, of courage, of truth-telling can have a ripple effect,
Okay.
creating a wave of positive change.
So it's not about being perfect.
Yeah,
It's about making those small, conscious choices each day.
exactly. Just taking one step at a time.
That makes me think about Gandhi's emphasis on simple living.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of people misunderstand this concept. They think it's just about, like, minimizing material possessions.
Getting rid of all your stuff.
Right. But it was about so much more than that.
It was about simplifying our lives,
Okay.
decluttering our minds, creating space for what truly matters.
Which can be really hard in our modern world.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure to consume,
Yeah.
to accumulate.
To keep up with the Joneses.
Right. It's like we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need more stuff to be happy.
Yeah, and I've been trying to incorporate this into my own life.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, it's a constant struggle.
I hear you. There's that temptation to buy the latest gadget or the newest fashion.
Right, or just to have more.
But Gandhi saw that as a trap.
Okay.
He saw consumerism as a form of violence,
Violence. Yeah.
a way of perpetuating inequality and exploiting both people and the planet.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, this famous quote.
Oh, yeah.
The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's a stark reminder of how our desire for more is contributing to so many problems in the world.
Right, like environmental degradation.
Exactly.
Social injustice.
And ultimately our own unhappiness.
Because let's be honest.
Yeah.
All that stuff doesn't really bring us lasting joy.
It's true. We get caught up in this cycle of wanting and getting.
Mm-hmm.
But the satisfaction is always fleeting.
So what's the alternative?
Well, Gandhi believed that true happiness and fulfillment come from living a life of purpose,
Okay.
service, and connection.
So it's about focusing on our relationships, our
Right.
communities.
Our contributions to the world.
It's like that saying, the things you own end up owning you.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed in my own life, the more stuff I have, the more mental and emotional energy I spend managing it,
Taking care of it.
worrying about it.
It becomes a burden.
Yeah. And it's a burden that Gandhi encourages us to release.
To free ourselves up for more meaningful pursuits.
But how do we actually do that? Like, how do we break free from the cycle of consumerism?
Well, I think it starts with becoming more aware of our consumption habits,
Okay.
questioning our motivations for buying things, and making deliberate choices that align with our values.
So it could be as simple as like buying less,
Right.
choosing experiences over material possessions.
Exactly. Or repairing items instead of replacing them. Or supporting local businesses that prioritize sustainability.
So it's about being more mindful.
Yes. About thinking before we buy.
I've been trying to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Like I ask myself, do I really need this? Will this bring me lasting joy?
Or is this just a fleeting impulse?
And it's amazing how often the answer is like, I don't really need this.
It's about retraining our minds.
Yeah.
Shifting our focus from acquiring more to appreciating what we already have.
And recognizing that true abundance isn't about the quantity of our possessions,
Right.
but the quality of our relationships,
Our experience.
our contributions to the world.
That's where true wealth lies.
Speaking of contributions,
Oh, yeah.
Gandhi was such a strong advocate for service and community.
Absolutely. He believed that we have a responsibility to uplift those around us,
To work for the betterment of society.
to make the world a better place.
Then I think that's something that's often missing in our culture today.
I agree. We tend to celebrate individualism.
Yeah, like
Cool.
everyone's looking out for number one.
But Gandhi saw our interconnectedness as a source of strength.
Interesting.
He believed that our well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of others.
So it's not about me versus you.
No, it's about us.
We're all in this together.
Exactly. And true happiness comes from serving something larger than ourselves.
It's like that African proverb,
Oh, which one?
Ubuntu,
Okay.
which means I am because we are.
Our humanity is defined by our relationships with others.
By our contributions to the collective good.
And it's not about grand gestures or heroic acts.
Right.
It's about those small, everyday acts of kindness, of compassion,
Of service.
that weave the fabric of a just and compassionate society.
So it could be something as simple as like
Yeah.
volunteering at a local soup kitchen,
Right.
mentoring a young person,
Donating to a cause you care about.
or just offering a helping hand to a neighbor.
Exactly. It's about showing up for each other in those small but meaningful ways.
It reminds me of that famous quote,
Which one?
be the change you wish to see in the world.
Ah, yes.
It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things.
Right.
It's about taking responsibility for creating the world we want to live in.
And it's not about achieving perfection. Gandhi himself acknowledged his own flaws and imperfections.
Yeah, he was human.
He was. He struggled. He made mistakes.
Yeah.
But he never stopped striving to live in alignment with his values.
So it's about the journey
Exactly. It's about constantly learning and growing,
and trying to do better.
even when we stumble.
Which brings us to another important aspect of Gandhi's philosophy,
Oh,
his approach to leadership.
oh yeah?
He saw leadership not as a position of power, but as an act of service.
Interesting.
So how does that translate into our modern understanding of leadership?
Right. Because today we tend to think of leaders as people who are charismatic,
Yeah.
authoritative.
Who can command a room?
But Gandhi's model of leadership was rooted in humility,
Okay.
compassion.
And a deep commitment to serving the greater good. He believed that true leaders are those who empower others, who inspire them to act.
Who guide them towards a shared vision.
Exactly. It's not about barking orders or demanding obedience.
It's about listening to others.
Valuing their perspective.
Creating a space where everyone feels seen and heard.
And leading by example.
So it's about walking the walk.
Right. Not just talking the talk.
Gandhi's own life was a testament to this principle.
He lived simply, he spoke truthfully, he acted courageously.
And he inspired millions to follow his lead.
It's a powerful reminder that leadership is not about titles or positions. It's about the way we show up in the world.
And the choices we make.
The impact we have on others.
And it's a quality that we can all cultivate.
Yeah.
Regardless of our role or status.
Right. We can all be leaders in our own spheres of influence.
In our families, our communities, our workplaces.
It's about creating a ripple effect of positive change.
One person, one action, one conversation at a time.
And that brings us to another really important aspect of Gandhi's philosophy.
What's that?
His approach to conflict.
Oh, yeah, I was just thinking about that.
He had this incredible ability to bridge divides and bring people together.
Even those who held opposing viewpoints.
So how did he do that?
Yeah. What can we learn from his approach to reconciliation and forgiveness?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I can't wait. You know, we've been talking about how Gandhi's philosophy challenges us to live, you know, more intentionally, to embrace nonviolence, to seek truth, and to serve others.
Right.
But I think one of the most radical aspects of his teachings is this emphasis on forgiveness and reconciliation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in a world where retribution and revenge often seem to rule the day, Gandhi's approach feels almost like countercultural.
It does.
So how did he manage to forgive those who had wronged him?
Yeah.
Who had even sought to harm him?
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And what can we learn from his example?
Well, I think it gets to the heart of Gandhi's spiritual beliefs. He saw forgiveness not as a sign of weakness, but as an act of strength.
Okay.
A conscious choice to break free from the cycle of anger and resentment.
He understood that holding on to anger and hatred really only poisons the person harboring those feelings.
It's so true.
It's like that saying,
What's that?
holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
I love that.
Right? I know in my own life when I've held on to grudges, it's only hurt me.
Yeah.
You know?
It eats away at you.
Totally.
Right.
But forgiveness, especially when we've been really hurt, can feel so difficult.
It's tough.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
So how do we even begin to cultivate that kind of compassion?
Well, it's a process.
Okay.
And it's not always easy.
Right.
Gandhi himself acknowledged that forgiveness was often the most difficult path.
But he believed it was the only path to true healing.
And reconciliation.
He actually said the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong, which is such a powerful statement.
Because we often associate forgiveness with weakness.
Right. Like you're letting someone off the hook.
Exactly. But Gandhi saw it as an act of liberation.
Okay.
Both for ourselves and for the person we're forgiving.
So it's not about saying it's okay what you did.
Right.
It's about saying, I'm not going to let this hurt me anymore.
It's about reclaiming your own power.
Your own agency.
And remember, forgiveness doesn't always happen overnight.
Right.
It can be a long and winding journey.
Yeah.
And it may require patience.
Self-compassion.
Even professional support.
I'm also thinking about how Gandhi applied this principle of forgiveness on a societal level.
Oh, yeah.
He was such a fierce advocate for reconciliation between Hindus and Muslims in India.
Absolutely.
Even in the face of intense violence and division.
It was remarkable.
So how can we apply his teachings to the conflicts and divisions we see in our own society today?
Well, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
But Gandhi's example offers a roadmap. He believed that true reconciliation requires a willingness to listen to the other side.
To understand their perspectives.
To acknowledge the pain and suffering that has been inflicted.
On both sides.
Right.
It's about building bridges instead of walls.
Creating spaces for dialogue and understanding.
Even when it's uncomfortable.
Even when it challenges our own deeply held beliefs.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity. Remembering that we are all interconnected. That our well-being is inextricably linked.
Gandhi said, "An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind."
Powerful.
He understood that violence only begets more violence.
So the only path to lasting peace is through compassion, understanding, and forgiveness.
It's a message that feels more relevant than ever.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the enduring wisdom of Mahatma Gandhi, I'm struck by how his teachings, though rooted in a specific time and place,
Mm,
really transcend cultural and historical boundaries.
they do.
They offer a timeless framework for living a more meaningful, purposeful, and compassionate life.
And what's so inspiring is that Gandhi wasn't a saint.
Right.
He was a flawed human being, just like all of us.
He struggled. He made mistakes.
But he never stopped striving to live in alignment with his values.
His life is a testament to the power of human transformation.
A reminder that each of us has the capacity to be a force for good in the world.
Absolutely. He showed us that even in the face of immense challenges, we can choose
Yeah.
love over hate,
Compassion over indifference.
forgiveness over revenge.
And those choices
Both small acts of courage and kindness,
can ripple outwards.
creating a wave of positive change.
It can transform individuals, communities, and even the world.
So as we go forth from this deep dive,
Yeah.
let's carry Gandhi's message in our hearts.
Let's strive to embody his principles in our daily lives.
To be the change we wish to see in the world.
And let's remember that the journey of transformation is a lifelong endeavor,
Yeah.
one that requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to stumble and rise again.
And above all, let's never lose sight of the power of love, compassion, and forgiveness.
To heal wounds, bridge divides, and create a more just and peaceful world for all.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life and teachings of Mahatma Gandhi.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and most importantly, a call to action.
Until next time.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving to make the world a better place.